Hey guys, welcome back to the Dillon England show. Thank you for swinging by. Today's kind of like a test. It's a live stream test. It's an audio test because a couple exciting announcements that I wanted to give to you guys to start off the show. We are starting a brand new weekly live show called the Dillon England show. I know we're just kind of continuing the same theme and name. I'm going to keep my podcast going where I interview people, but one of the challenges has been finding consistent guests to be able to give enough content. So I wanted to create a show weekly where no matter if I have a guest scheduled, we can still hang out and I can still react and give my thoughts about some current events. So today, this is what I want to do. I want to talk about three things. I want to talk about the new show, what the new show entails, what the plan is going to be. I want to be testing some of our audio equipment. I want to make sure that we're good and everything looks good and sounds good for the official release of the show. I want to talk about something that happened yesterday. Peanut the Squirrel, brutally murdered by the New York government. We're going to talk about my thoughts on that. And then we're also going to talk about the election. So really full kind of 30, 45-minute stream today. So if you're new, please grab a coffee. I have my coffee right here. Cool Beans Coffee Brewery, low acid coffee blend. Definitely check that out. But what I wanted to start off our show today is talking about what the weekly show will look like. Why am I doing a weekly show? What about the podcast made me consider doing a weekly show? So let's start there. As I said earlier, I have absolutely loved doing the podcast. I've been able to meet some incredible people doing the podcast as well. But one of the challenges has just been getting consistent guest on the show. I've been wanting to grow the show. I've met some really cool people, but at the end of the day, if I don't have a guest scheduled on the show, I can't create content. I've had a couple people ask me my thoughts on some current events going on, and a couple people ask me as well, just thinking it might be a good idea for me to consider to do a weekly show, and that is going to be the plan. So today is just a test of maybe what type of content we're looking at. But this is what I'd love to see on our weekly show. We're going to do some sort of monologue, updating everybody weekly on the top current events going around the world. I want it to be a quick, easy show to listen to, and we're going to live stream it, which is going to be really exciting as well. Also on the show, something I'd love to see is some guests that you guys can react to, whether it's Kyle Mann from the Babylon Bee, or I'm talking to a musician, a very popular musician, whatever it looks like. I think it'd be really cool to have you guys on the show and being able to talk to some guests live, as well as just some comedy, some lighthearted fun. It should be a really good time. Moving forward, I wanted to talk to you guys about Peanut the Squirrel. For those that don't know about Peanut the Squirrel was a squirrel yesterday that was brutally murdered by the NYE, the New York, whatever you want to call them, conservational, whatever. The police came in with a warrant to this beautiful couple, and they murdered a squirrel, which I know is also kind of weird. And they also murdered this couple's pet raccoon. We have a couple interesting articles to go through on the live stream today. As I pull those up, if you're not on Twitter, Twitter was an absolute storm yesterday. It was an absolute just crazy, wild storm of squirrel memes. And I've seen more about squirrels in the past 24 hours than I think I've seen in the past year. I mean, I was legitimately going nuts. I'm sorry, that was a bad joke, but just going crazy, seeing all of the outrage because, and I get it. There was someone who had a pet, and the NYE came, and they came in and they killed this person's pet. It's an absolutely wild story. And as I get the article set up, because again, this is what we're doing today, we're testing how to make sure I get this set up. Let me read an article to start from the Daily Wire. The Daily Wire had an interesting article, an interesting take on this. This article says, here, actually, let me share this with you guys. This is this happened yesterday. This is an article by the Daily Wire. Zach Jewell wrote this article. This is what it says. Internet sensation Peanut the Squirrel euthanized by New York state government. 10 to 12 DEC officers raided my house as if I was a drug dealer, Peanut's owner said. Let's read the article. Peanut, a squirrel who became a social media sensation after being rescued by New York about 7 years ago, was seized by New York State authorities and euthanized earlier this week. Peanut's owners Mark and Daniela Longo told TMZ Live Friday that several New York Department of Environmental Conservation, the DEC officers, arrived with a warrant to search their home, where they confiscated the famous squirrel and a raccoon that the couple had rescued. Both animals were euthanized, according to Mark. Peanut was the best thing that ever happened to us, Longo told TMZ with his wife by his side. It not only tears my family apart, but Peanut was the cornerstone of our nonprofit animal rescue. And 10 to 12 DEC officers raided my house as if I was a drug dealer. I sat outside my house for 5 hours. I had to get a police escort to my bathroom. I wasn't even allowed to feed my rescue horses breakfast or lunch. I sat there like a criminal after they interrogated my wife to check her immigration status. An Instagram account dedicated to Peanut has over 565,000 followers. Asked why the DEC targeted him and his wife, Longo said they don't have a clue. We have no idea who made these complaints. Again, Peanut was an indoor squirrel, not harming anybody. He has been with us for 7 years, and not a single complaint was ever filed. The Associated Press reported that the New York DEC took both Peanut and the squirrel and Fred the raccoon from the Longos' home in Pine City on Wednesday. The agency reported that said it received several complaints that the wildlife was potentially at risk and being kept illegally. The Longos told TMZ that they've had Peanut for over 7 years after rescuing the squirrel when his mother was killed. The DE said that Peanut bit an investigator on the hand while the squirrel was being confiscated. This is what I want to talk to you guys about. Listen, the DE said that Peanut bit an investigator on the hand while the squirrel was being confiscated. So they are trying to kill the squirrel, and the squirrel acts in self-defense. And so then they said, because the squirrel acted in self-defense, we killed it. Because that makes sense. In addition, a person involved with the investigation was bitten by the squirrel to test for rabies. Both animals were euthanized. The animals are being tested for rabies, and anyone who has been in contact with these animals strongly encouraged to consult their physicians. Honestly, this still feels surreal that the state that I live in actually targeted me and took two of the most beloved animals on this planet away and didn't quarantine them. They took them from my house and they just killed them, Longo told the Associated Press. I think the takeaway is this. Yes, Peanut the squirrel and the raccoon, it sucks. It's terrifying, but it's also one of those situations where the government reaching out and going out of their way to cause harm and disrupt civilians is getting out of hand. What I want to do next, as we keep talking about Peanut, I wanted to play a video that actually my friend Trevor made honoring the life of Peanut the squirrel. Peanut the squirrel lived a good life. He was saved by a lovely couple after his mother died and he was an orphan. This couple took care of Peanut, and Peanut lived a glorious 7 years in New York before the authorities brutally murdered him. So let's watch this video dedicated to Peanut. Grab some tissues, please. This might be emotional for some of you. So if it is a little too emotional, I completely understand. All right, everyone, we're going to watch this video in memory of Peanut the squirrel, and we're going to have a brief moment of silence. First Harambe, now Peanut. Who's next? Your pet? My dog? This has come far enough, everyone. And I think Michael Knowles said it well. The real issue is not that just a squirrel died, it's the fact that the government went out of their way to punish a family that at least was come to light has done nothing wrong. I don't know the New York rules. I don't know if they were breaking the law, housing a squirrel. But at the end of the day, guys, I think that New York has a couple other problems that they need to deal with outside of just a family that has a squirrel. So anyway, that was a video in memorial for Peanut. I hope that you guys let me know your thoughts. What about Peanut? What's your takeaway of this story? Is the takeaway from this story that you shouldn't house illegal animals, or is it a takeaway of maybe the government outreaching and getting in citizens' lives when they really don't belong? I think for me, what this really boils down to is just like, what's to say the government can't just say tomorrow that German Shepherd dogs are illegal or pit bulls were illegal? If Matt Walsh had his way, pit bulls would probably be illegal, and they could just come in your home and take them because they didn't want them there. Obviously, I completely understand if this was a tiger. I completely understand if this was a lion. But to my knowledge, neither of these animals were causing anyone's harm. And the only harm any of these animals ever did was to an investigator after that animal was feeling endangered. So the animal bit the investigator and they killed the animal as a result. This is like me going up to someone and punching them and getting mad at them when they punch me back. That doesn't make sense. Animals act in self-defense. Animals feel fear. That's probably what Peanut felt. Bit the investigator. They killed him. I think it's interesting how all of these things are happening 2 days before an election. There's been a theme seemingly of animals, from cats being eaten by Haitians in Ohio, Peanut getting brutally murdered by the New York government. And then you talk about mules, you talk about other things. Why are these things happening right around an election? Is it random? Is it just a random events that just happen to happen? Or is it just to distract people from doing what's important? And that's voting on Tuesday. I'd like to pivot to the election for a second. Everyone needs to vote. I'm not going to tell you how to vote. I hope that when you look at these two candidates, that you look at these two candidates objectively and that you vote with what you believe is best for our country. But you do need to vote. Don't let all of these distracting things distract you from what's important, and that's voting the next president. But I encourage you all not to get distracted by the cats and the squirrels and everything. Just everyone do your civic duty and vote. Someone asked me, who do you think's going to win? And I'd love to touch on that in a second as we wrap up today's mini podcast. I really believe that Donald Trump has the votes to win. I think that he's going to have the electoral votes. I think that he's going to have all of the legal votes. I think that Donald Trump has done everything right, campaigned well. He's made some mistakes here and there, but overall he's done well. And I really believe that Donald Trump will have the votes. But what I cannot tell you guys is, do I know if Donald Trump will stand there after the election and the votes are counted? I do not know. I think there's at least some weird enough things in the 2020 election to make us pause and say, we should be making sure that 2024 is as legitimate as possible. And that's on both sides. I really hope that in this election, it's so clear who wins that nobody can say anything about cheating. I will say, if Donald Trump wins and the Democratic Party tries to play that Donald Trump cheated to win, that will be the funniest thing I have ever seen. But I do believe that right now Donald Trump has all the momentum. Everyone that I've talked to does not like Kamala Harris. Some people are still voting for Kamala Harris, and they just do it out of despite for Trump. I think Trump has won over a lot of people from the Democratic Party that previously did not like him or would never vote Republican. So the question is this election going to be legitimate, legal? But in any case, our votes do matter. Don't listen to what they say. When they say that your votes don't matter, they're just trying to get you out of voting. So please vote this Tuesday. Vote for Peanut. Vote for Peanut the Squirrel. We can win this for him. The left currently always talks about more government regulation. That's actually Kamala's economic plan, is more government regulation. She wants price caps on things. Donald Trump, yes, there's always going to be government regulation, but that is not what the Republicans want. So if you like the idea of having your animal killed, you want more government regulation telling you how you should live your life. Vote accordingly. If you don't like that idea of having the government run every aspect of your life, then vote accordingly. This Tuesday is a monumental vote for our nation. And I really hope that you take the time to go vote. And I really hope that God will bless this country for the next 4 years. God bless Peanut the Squirrel. God bless America. I really hope you guys enjoyed this quick little live podcast. I'm going to take a minute and talk to the chat, the people that are live with me right now, and I'm just going to do a couple audio tests as well. Thank you guys for listening when you listen to the podcast that I release. Thank you for listening. If you enjoyed this type of content, please let me know in the comments, and we'll see you guys on the next episode of The Dillon England Show.